Renewable fuel standard is the national policy that mandates the production and the consumption of biomass-based fuel. The ethanol industry in the US started to take off in 2003 when California banned the use of MTBE as the additive to oxygenated gasoline. The reason for forbidding the usage of MTBE is because when MTBE was burned, a toxic chemical is produced and that can pollute the local water body. Soon after California banned the usage of MTBE, all the other states followed California and stopped using MTBE within 2 years. The oil and gas industry use ethanol to replace MTBE as an additive to oxygenated gasoline. 2 years later, in the Energy Policy Act of 2005, the first program of renewable fuel standard was passed. With RFS 1, it is required to blend ethanol with gasoline, and the target is set at 7.5 billion gallons by 2012. 2 years later, in the Energy Independence and Security Act, ISA 2007, a renewable fuel standard was revised. Instead of having only one renewable fuel category, RFS2 require 4 different categories for renewable fuel. The target is increased to 9 billion gallons in 2012. That target slowly grow to 36 billion gallons by 2022. RFS2 provides specific requirement for reducing life cycle GHG emissions for the 4 renewable fuel categories. Renewable fuel industry has really taken off, motivated by RFS2. Actually, RFS is very successful that the ethanol industry is producing more ethanol than the required quantity by RFS2. This table illustrates the greenhouse gas reduction thresholds for the 4 different categories. Renewable fuel is starch-based feedstock, producing ethanol from corn and other grain. For this type of renewable fuel, it is required to have at least 20% of GHG reduction. Advanced biofuel is any renewable biofuel feedstock other than grain. To be an advanced biofuel, the greenhouse gas emission need to be 50% lower than gasoline. Cellulosic biofuel require the biofuel to be produced from cellulosic biomass. At the same time, the GHG emission should be 60% lower. For bio-based diesel, GHG requirement is 50% lower than diesel. IPS also has specific requirement for the fuel pathways that can be used to produce biofuel. Other requirements such as the type of fuel that is used in the tractor to harvest the biomass. Indirect land use change is not required. Grandfathering is given so that any existing biofuel refineries is exempt from the new technology requirement. This table illustrates the specific annual targets for the 4 different fuel categories. Renewable fuel that has 20% lower GHG emissions will grow from 9 billion gallons to 15 billion gallons in the year 2015. Then the amount will stay at 15 billion gallons thereafter. For advanced biofuel that has 50% lower GHG emissions, it is required by the IPS to grow to 9 billion gallons in the year 2017 and 21 billion gallons in the year 2022. Out of this 21 billion gallons, 16 billion gallons need to come from cellulosic biofuel that has 60% lower GHG emissions. For biomass-based diesel, RFS mandate require annual production to be at least 1 billion gallons since 2012. So the total RFS requirement is 36 billion gallons in the year 2022. Renewable fuel that has 20% lower GHG emission is capped at 15 billion gallons since 2015, while at the same time cellulosic biofuel is encouraged to grow quickly to 16 billion gallons towards the end year of regulation. The currency of RFS is the Renewable Identification Number, RIN. In the trading system, RINs can be purchased and sold. This will offer the obligated party a flexibility to reduce the cost for abatement. RIN codes are 38 digits of code that is produced and attached to a specific batch of biofuel. From the RIN code, you are able to tell the year of the production and the company and the ID of the facility that produced this batch of biofuel. You can also tell which fuel category this batch of biofuel belongs to. For example, if D equals to 6, that means you are producing a batch of renewable biofuel. If its D code equal to 4, it is biodiesel. If D code equal to 5, it is advanced biofuel. If D code is 3, it's cellulosic biofuel. If D code is 7, it's cellulosic-based biodiesel. EPA is responsible for the implementation of RFS. Every summer, EPA will issue the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. EPA will set up an annual volumetric percentage for the whole country. The final rule will be issued by the end of November of each year, and with the final rule, EPA will set up the final volumetric target for the country. EPA will also determine the compliance date for every individual obligated party. According to the sales and market share of the obligated parties, EPA will decide every individual company's obligations, which is called Renewable Volume Obligation, RVO. The obligated party include all fuel suppliers, blenders, and importers. There is a significant amount of penalty for non-compliance, which is $32,500 per day of non-compliance. The implementation of RFS has a challenge for cellulosic biofuel. This chart shows the mandatory target set up by ISA 2007, and the red bar is the EPA revised annual target every year, and the green bar shows the actual production. It's clear that every year EPA has to revise the ISA target down by more than 90%. And still, the industry is not able to provide enough production to meet the mandatory target by EPA.